One of the things I often hear as a complaint about therapy is this, like, in therapy, you just tell these stories, you just do this like retelling of all of these crazy stories from your childhood, and never heals anything and doesn't get you anywhere. And it's just this retelling. And there's like an attitude sometimes of devaluing and dismissing the importance of going backwards. And I want to address that for a moment, because there's an upside and a downside, and I want you to be aware of both of them. Time does not actually exist in the way that it lives in our minds. Okay, there really isn't actually a past, and there isn't really actually a future. So let's just take that out for a moment. And let's work in the realm of everything is arising in the present moment. Something that sometimes arises in the present moment is a memory. It is a memory of an experience you have had. We think about that as being in the past, but it is not. It is firmly here in the present moment, arising in you as imagery, as a memory with emotion. Okay, so I want you to first just install that. It's happening in the now. It's not in the past. It's happening now. So when people say you're in the past, it's a little bit of a mind fuck. Sorry about my language, but it's not happening in the past. It's arising in the now. But what we need to understand is that what is arising in the now is a memory. Now let's understand another thing about memory. You do not remember accurately a photographic, detailed, and accurate view of what you've been through. You do not. The way that your system encodes things has to do with what was two things. It's got to be two things. It's got to be emotionally salient. So this emotional charge, and it has to have some kind of meaning. If it doesn't have meaning to you and it's not emotionally charged, you will not remember it. If I ask you, what did you do 6 months ago at 2 a.m.? Most of you probably can't tell me that. But if 6 months ago at 2 a.m., some extreme event was happening to you, positive or negative, you will remember that. So in the present moment, whatever memories you are having that are generating, that are alive, that are making themselves known, are in some way meaningful to you and emotionally salient. So that's one thing you need to know. Now, when we tell the story of the memory, the cognitive thinking story of the memory, disconnected from the emotional charge, then we're ruminating in an unproductive way in a narrative. And that is not healing. That is not helpful. That is what we think of as, I'm just going back through the same story over and over and over and over and over, and nothing good is happening. It's not worth doing. I agree. I agree. But if that memory is coming up, very often there is stored emotion waiting to be felt and stored trauma waiting to be metabolized. And the reason the memory is coming up is because there's unfinished work in your biological system that is wanting to complete. Sometimes we have incomplete fight responses. Sometimes we have an incomplete freeze response. Sometimes we have an incomplete fawning response. Sometimes we have an incomplete flight response. And those are memories that are going to keep repeating, or there is meaning and insight and something that needs to be extracted that is here as wisdom for you. And until you actually pick up the wisdom and integrate it, you will have these recurring things. And in my experience, those aren't things that I can easily DIY. I want a well-trained, wise guide who can see things that I can't yet see, and who has traveled down paths that I'm wanting to travel, to help me to ask the right questions, to encourage, to help, to scaffold, to guide. And when you find, people like that in your lives, that's part of interdependence, is that we help each other with this work. So that's about the past. Now let's talk about the future for a moment. The future is the part of your mind that can imagine things that don't yet exist. It's powerful and it's beautiful. And it's the part of you firmly grounded. This is happening to you in the present moment. It's firmly grounded in the present moment. But from this moment, given all of the experiences and memories that I'm integrating and accumulating into my present moment being, I'm also generating a vision of what is possible. How might my needs be even more well met? How might my survival be even more served? How might our collective well-being be even more well served? And that's happening in the part of my mind that can imagine things that I want to create because we're active co-creators. That's the part of us that can challenge the status quo, that can say, listen, this rough draft that we're living in right now, this is just a rough draft. Let's keep refining it. Let's keep tweaking it. It can be better than this. And so you want some vision that you're serving that is deeply connected to your values, to your needs, that you are wanting to bridge the gap between your present moment experience and your desired experience. And that's part of your motivational system. But once again, it arises in the present moment. And the key here, if you want to just have it be a little bit more sort of generative, is that the piece needed is that we have all of our internal systems loving each other up, connected to one another, listening to one another. That's how we bring the emotions and the needs back in line with the rest of the system. And then you've got a very powerful engine. And this is a powerful engine that you have for healing and creation. But it all happens in the present moment. And the times when it doesn't feel alive is when it is not connected to your feelings and your needs. And so that one of the first tasks is getting yourself more internally connected and coherent.